The 2025 NFL Draft has concluded, and the Baltimore Ravens have predictably made all 11 of their draft picks.
Well, I mean, technically they didn't make all 11 of theirs. They traded back a couple times.
True, yeah,
They picked up some future picks.
Touche. So, did they win the draft? Did EDC cook in this draft? Well, we're going to break down the good, the bad, and the same old Ravens. So let's take a look at it. Let's bring it up here. What do they have? All right. So, get your popcorn, sit down, get a drink, get comfortable. We have a lot to go through here. All right. First round pick, Malachi Starks, safety from Georgia. Second round pick, Mike Green, edge from Marshall. Third round pick, Emory Jones, tackle from LSU. Fourth round pick, Teddy Buchanan, linebacker from California. Fifth round pick, Carson Vincent, tackle from Alabama A&M. Sixth round pick. This is one of 5 sixth-round picks. Bilal Cone or Coney, I'm not quite sure.
I think it's Cone.
Bilal Cone, cornerback from Western Michigan. Tyler Loop, kicker from Arizona. LaJonte Wester, wide receiver from Colorado. Aeneas Peebles, D-tackle from Virginia Tech. And Robert Longerbeam, cornerback from Rutgers. And then one more pick in the 7th round, Garrett Dellinger, O-line from LSU. Okay, well, a lot of people are happy with the first 2 picks at least. Malachi Starks and Mike Green seem to be some high caliber defenders, right? They have potential to be playmaking type defenders, which is always exciting to have on your team. So as far as having the players on the team, yeah, I'm excited about having that player on, those players on the team. If Malachi Starks can be the type of safety that they advertise him to be, and that helps Kyle Hamilton become more of a playmaker closer to the line of scrimmage, cool. I'm happy with that. If Mike Green can be more of a game wrecker on the edge, cool. All that makes me happy. If Emory Jones can come in and beat out Voorhees, I would say, or Faalele, but it seems like Faalele is kind of locked in at that right guard spot. But if he can go in there and take one of those positions, cool. Then this would be a somewhat successful draft, right? Now I know a lot of people are giving this A+, A- type of thing, but there's a couple of things that we need to address. But B, I want to get your thoughts on the draft. What do you think about the draft overall? And we can break down some of these players that you think were hit or misses.
Overall, I'm not a huge fan of the draft because they had 2 big needs going into the draft, right? Or I guess technically 3. They needed starting guards, 2 of them, for Faalele and Voorhees. They need to replace both those guys. They needed O-line depth, and then they also needed depth on the defensive line, on the interior defensive line. They only really addressed one of those areas. That's depth on the O-line. I don't think that Emory Jones is going to be given even the opportunity to beat out either Voorhees or Faalele. I think that they have already decided that those guys are their starting guards, just like they did last season when they knew they weren't good and said they'll be good in 2025. Well, it's 2025 now, so I assume they still feel the same way, and those guys are going to be starting at guard. But Emory Jones, he is a swing tackle, or he can be their swing tackle, and then presumably if somebody gets hurt, maybe he can come in and play guard there as well. So, that's not a terrible pick, but, again, you waited till the end of the 3rd round to address probably the biggest need that you had there. They didn't address interior D-line, really. They took a D-tackle with the 34th pick in the 6th round, reminding you again that there are only 32 teams in the league. 34th pick in the 6th round. So really more of a 7th round pick, which is kind of a throwaway. That's why I didn't even mention the seventh round O lineman. I don't think he's going to make the team. The other O lineman, Carson Vincent, I think that they'll probably end up trying to stash on the practice squad. So I don't think that they took those needs very seriously. The O line a bit more than the D line, but yeah, I feel like they had the opportunity to really address those needs, really upgrade those areas, and they didn't do it. You didn't need an upgrade in the safety. You have Kyle Hamilton, you have Ardarius Washington, you have Sanusi Kane, you have Bo Braid, who everybody loved last year. Loved all four of those guys, right? So you didn't have a need there. You don't really have a need at edge. You have Odafe Owe and Kyle Van Noy, who were both double-digit sack guys last year. You drafted Adisa Isaac last year, who didn't get to play much. You have Tavius Robinson there. And you still have David Ajabo, although he's probably going to end up getting cut. But it wasn't an immediate need there. But I can see, in the second round, if you're comfortable with all of the off-field stuff, taking a talent like Mike Green there, that's fine, whatever. The one pick that I have the real problem with is Malachi Starks.
No, I agree. We've been saying this for a few years with some of their picks. Good player, bad pick, right? We needed to go interior O-line in that round. Okay, Josh Simmons was there. I know he's a tackle, projected to be a tackle. There's some injury concerns, apparently, that wasn't enough to stop the Chiefs from getting him. But there are other guards that they could have either drafted there or moved up to get. And with 11 picks, this is a time that they needed to move up in the draft and get somebody that they felt could make a difference. Because, like you mentioned with Emory Jones, he's not really going to be given the opportunity to compete for that starting job. I don't believe. Now doesn't mean he can't end up being the starter, because I just don't think Voorhees is good enough. But if you're drafting a guard in the first round, there's an expectation for that guard to start, right? And Voorhees might be good enough, best case scenario, but why not get somebody better? Because this is the mentality that we have on defense. We have two safeties. We have one of the best safeties in the league in Kyle Hamilton. We have another good safety in Ardarius Washington. We drafted two safeties, Bo Braid. Well, we drafted one safety and picked up another one after the draft, Bo Braid, and we drafted Sanusi Kane. That's good enough, but you want better, so you get Malachi Starks. We have edge rushers. We drafted first, second, third, fourth round picks on edge rushers, and we got Kyle Van Noy. Odafe Owe had 10 sacks last year. It's good enough. Didn't we lead the league in sacks?
They didn't lead the league. I think they came in third.
We were one of the top we were one of the top teams in the league in sacks. We'll say that. But you want better, right? So Mike Green is there. Take Mike Green because you want better. Good enough isn't good enough on the defensive side. On the offensive side, not even good enough, because Voorhees wasn't even good enough to start last year. Not even good enough, and really Faalele wasn't good enough either. But he's
represent the conference.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But you throw them out there anyway, and you don't really draft any competition for them. You just want to scrape by. And we've done a list on this show before about how the Ravens spend the absolute least amount of money on offensive line. Now, I just want to remind you, in case you don't remember, offensive line is who protects Lamar Jackson.
Not only that, it's who protects Lamar Jackson, and it's who opens the holes for Derrick Henry.
Yes,
because currently Lamar's doing a big chunk of that as well. Is getting Derrick Henry loose.
Yeah. Yes, we're going to be a little bit more down on this draft than you'll see other people, but that's the reason why. Because no matter what happens on that defense, when it comes to January, comes to the playoffs, the expectation is for Lamar to make it happen. We're not going to ask anybody on that defense to make plays to win games, right? If they do it, that's great. We're hoping they do it. You might even expect them to do it, but when they don't do it, there won't be any criticism of that defense. Never has been.
Right, and the argument for Malachi Starks is that he can be that playmaker on defense. That the defense does need to produce more game changing plays, particularly in
Yes.
the playoffs. They need to get more turnovers, get the offense off the field quicker. Malachi Starks didn't do that in college. He wasn't a guy who was forcing a lot of turnovers in college, and even if he was, that's kind of a thing that doesn't necessarily translate. Turnovers are up and down. I don't think it's something that you can necessarily target in a draft pick, right? And the idea that, hey, we're going to draft him to kind of free up Kyle Hamilton and let Kyle Hamilton be the best version of himself, sure. I would argue that you should do that for your quarterback, though.
Yeah.
If you're going to draft people to enhance someone else, it should be the best player on your team, the guy who wins you the games, because it is Lamar Jackson. It's not the defense. It's not Kyle Hamilton. It's not Matabike. It's not Roquan. Lamar is the guy who wins games in Baltimore. And if Lamar's not there, that defense doesn't pick up the slack.
There it is. There it is in a nutshell. Now, we can go through some of these other picks, but the reality is, do we really expect these picks to stick on the team?
Some of them, sure.
How many do you think out of the 11 draft picks are going to stick?
Okay, look, obviously Malachi, Mike Green, Emory Jones, Teddy Buchanan, they're making the team, right? I said I think Carson Vincent is probably going to be a guy they try to stash on the practice squad or throw him on IR if he gets a paper cut or something like that. I think they keep one of the corners.
I think so too.
And I think they're going to cut that D tackle and the O lineman out of LSU that they drafted in the 6th and 7th round. I think neither one of those guys is going to make the team. On the interior D line, I think that they are going to keep Matabike, Travis Jones, Broderick Washington. They're going to go out and sign one or two vets, and they're going to say, hey, Tavius Robinson plays inside as well. So we're going to use that versatility to allow us to keep an extra player somewhere else. And I think Peoples won't make it. The kicker, that just depends on whether or not they are still comfortable with Justin Tucker being on the team. If they are, he's not making it. If they're not, he'll just replace Justin Tucker. So I believe I can't remember specifically everyone else.
And that comfort isn't about what's happened with him off the field. Is he back? Is he back to his regular self, being an accurate kicker? If he shows that in training camp, they'll be comfortable with him moving forward, and that kicker will be cut. If he still has some issues with his accuracy, because as Chris pointed out, even John Harbaugh pointed out, he still has the leg power. It's not a thing where he's washed. He can still kick it. It's just a mental thing, right? He was just missing them, and he seemed to have gotten past that, towards the end of the season, and he was kind of back to his normal self. So if he's able to keep it going, they'll keep him. If he's not, then it's a wrap.
I'll tell you what, for a team that plays as conservative as the Baltimore Ravens do under John Harbaugh and always, playing for the field goal, I would not be relying on Justin Tucker for another season, period.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to rely on a rookie either.
No, but at this point, like Justin Tucker, like he said, when it was over a certain distance, like 40 and under, he was fine for the most part. You start getting to the 50s, and it was all over the place. I'm not gonna count on that reversing itself in his age 34 or 35 season.
Yeah, but no, I mean that's pretty much a wrap. If I have to give this draft a grade, right now I would say C+, and I know that sounds low, right? I know it sounds low, but draft isn't just about getting talent. It's getting what you need, right? Like, we got two potentially really good players on defense, and that does mean something, right? If they didn't get really good players, this grade would be much worse. But getting a safety for the second time in the first round, man, they're not reading the room. All right, they're just not reading the room. That's just not the type of pick that you make in a year. Our window's open. This is why it's so important. When you are close to winning a Super Bowl, you have to be all in on getting players that can play right now, not guys that can play later. You got to do what you got to do to get the guys that can play right now. Throw all your chips in so you can win. That's what the teams that are winning Super Bowls are doing. We're not doing that. So, feel good, about the players. Be optimistic. That's all we can do at this point. But no, I'm not giving no A+ for this. I just don't think these are the type of moves that you make when you're trying to win a Super Bowl. These are picks that you're making for later, and who knows what this team is going to be like later on. But that is it. Check us out on Wednesday, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time for the LBHT show. All right, we're gonna go over this some more and some other stories. All right, let us know what you think about the draft in the comments. Also, go over to LBHTShow.com. Sign up for our newsletter. All right, go over there. Buy some merch while you're over there as well. LBHTShow.com. Check it out. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.